Dr. Maya Richardson pulled into the parking lot of St. Catherine's Medical Center just after 9 in the morning. It was a Saturday, quiet and peaceful, with only a handful of cars scattered across the usually packed lot. She'd been away for 3 weeks attending a medical conference in Switzerland, and then spending time with her mother who hadn't been feeling well. But even on vacation, her mind kept drifting back to the hospital. There were reports she needed to review, decisions that couldn't wait until Monday. She grabbed her laptop bag from the passenger seat and locked her car. The sun felt warm on her face and she took a moment to enjoy it. Maya was wearing jeans, a comfortable sweater, and sneakers. After weeks of formal conference attire and uncomfortable shoes, casual clothes felt like freedom. Her natural hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail. She looked like anyone else enjoying their weekend, which is exactly how she wanted to feel. The main entrance doors slid open automatically as she approached. The lobby was nearly empty. Just a receptionist at the front desk typing on her computer and an elderly couple slowly making their way toward the elevator. Maya smiled at them as she headed toward the hallway that led to the administrative offices. "Excuse me. Excuse me." A sharp voice cut through the quiet lobby. Maya turned to see a woman in scrubs walking quickly toward her. The name tag read Jennifer Hartley, RN. Her face was set in a stern expression and her arms were crossed tightly across her chest. "Can I help you?" Maya asked politely. "Visiting hours don't start until 11, Jennifer said, her tone leaving no room for discussion. "You need to come back later." Maya smiled, assuming there was just some confusion. "Oh, I'm not visiting. I work here. I'm just heading up to my office for a bit." Jennifer's eyes narrowed. "Your office? I've worked here for 12 years and I know everyone on staff. I've never seen you before." Something cold settled in Maya's stomach, but she kept her voice calm. "I've been away for a few weeks. I'm Dr. Richardson. I just need to grab some files from my office." "Dr. Richardson?" Jennifer repeated, her voice dripping with doubt. She looked Maya up and down, taking in the casual clothes, the sneakers, the ponytail. "Look, I don't know what you're trying to pull, but you need to leave. Now." Maya felt her heart rate increase, but years of professional training kicked in. "Stay calm, stay composed. Don't let anyone see you rattled. I understand there might be some confusion. If you'd like, I can show you my hospital ID. It's in my bag." "I don't need to see anything," Jennifer snapped. "What I need is for you to stop arguing with me and leave the building. If you actually worked here, you'd be in proper attire, not dressed like you're going to the gym." A maintenance worker mopping near the elevators had stopped to watch. The receptionist was also looking over now, her fingers frozen above her keyboard. Maya felt the familiar burn of humiliation creeping up her neck. The same feeling she'd experienced countless times throughout her career. The assumption that she didn't belong. The automatic dismissal. The refusal to even consider that she might be telling the truth. "Ma'am," Maya said, forcing herself to remain respectful, "I really do work here. If you could just let me show you my identification or perhaps call someone from administration, we can clear this up in seconds." "I'm not calling anyone," Jennifer said, her voice rising. "And I'm certainly not letting you wander around this hospital making up stories. Do you know how many people try to sneak into hospitals? Do you have any idea about security protocols?" "I understand security is important," Maya replied quietly. "That's exactly why I'm offering to show you my credentials." Jennifer stepped closer and Maya could see the anger in her eyes. "You know what? I'm done with this conversation. You're being aggressive and refusing to cooperate." "I'm not being aggressive," Maya said, her voice still calm but with an edge now. "I'm trying to resolve this situation." "Don't tell me what you're doing," Jennifer shot back. She pulled out her radio. "Security to the main lobby. Security to the main lobby immediately." Maya closed her eyes for a brief second, centering herself. She could push this. She could demand to speak to someone in charge. She could pull out her phone and call any number of people who would clear this up instantly, but something stopped her. Maybe it was exhaustion from 3 weeks of travel. Maybe it was the familiar weight of knowing that any resistance from her would be seen as proof of wrongdoing. Or maybe she just wanted to see how far this would actually go. 2 security guards arrived within minutes. They were both young men who looked uncomfortable with the situation before Jennifer even started explaining. "This woman is refusing to leave the premises," Jennifer told them, gesturing at Maya like she was a problem that needed to be removed. "She's claiming she works here, but she's not in uniform, has no visible ID, and I've never seen her before. She's been aggressive and argumentative. I haven't been aggressive, Maya said directly to the guards. I tried to show her my identification, but she refused to look at it. One of the guards, the taller one with kind eyes, looked between Jennifer and Maya uncertainly. Ma'am, do you have ID we could see? Before Maya could reach for her bag, Jennifer interrupted. She could have a fake ID. She could have anything in that bag. I want her removed from the property now. The shorter guard shifted his weight. Maybe we should just take a quick look at what she has. It'll only take a second. Are you questioning my judgment? Jennifer's voice went up an octave. I've been a nurse here for 12 years. I think I know when someone doesn't belong in this hospital. I'm telling you right now as a senior staff member that I want her escorted out. If you don't do it, I'll report both of you for failing to maintain hospital security. The guards exchanged glances. Maya could see the calculation in their eyes. They were young, probably worried about their jobs, faced with a senior nurse who clearly had authority. And there she stood. A black woman in casual clothes with no visible badge claiming to work there. I'm sorry, the taller guard said to Maya, and she could hear genuine apology in his voice. We're going to have to ask you to leave. If you work here, you can sort it out with administration during business hours. Maya nodded slowly. She could feel everyone's eyes on her. The receptionist, the maintenance worker, an older man who'd walked into the lobby and stopped to watch the scene. She thought about all the times she'd been in rooms where people assumed she was the nurse, not the doctor. The times she'd been stopped in parking lots and asked if she really drove that car. The constant, exhausting need to prove she belonged in spaces she'd earned the right to occupy. I'll leave, Maya said quietly, but I want both of your names and badge numbers. The guards looked relieved that she wasn't going to make this harder. They gave her the information, and she typed it into her phone along with the date, time, and Jennifer's name from her badge. As the guards walked her toward the door, Jennifer called out, Maybe next time you'll think twice before trying to sneak into places where you don't belong. Maya stopped and turned back. She looked at Jennifer for a long moment, memorizing her face, her badge number, the entitled confidence in her expression. Then, without a word, Maya turned and walked out the automatic doors into the bright Saturday morning. She sat in her car for 10 minutes, hands gripping the steering wheel, breathing slowly and deliberately. She'd been the CEO of this hospital for 3 years. She'd overseen expansions, hired hundreds of staff members, made decisions that affected thousands of patients. She'd won awards, spoken at conferences, been featured in medical journals, and she'd just been thrown out of her own hospital by a nurse who took one look at her and decided she didn't belong. Maya pulled out her phone and opened her voice recorder. She spoke every detail of what had happened while it was fresh. The words Jennifer used, the way the guards looked uncomfortable but followed orders anyway. The feeling of humiliation as she was escorted out in front of other people. When she finished recording, she started her car and drove home. Monday morning, she thought. Monday morning would be very interesting indeed. Jennifer walked into the staff break room that Saturday afternoon with her head held high. 3 other nurses were sitting at the table, eating lunch and scrolling through their phones. She poured herself a cup of coffee and sat down with a satisfied sigh. You would not believe the morning I've had, she announced, not waiting for anyone to ask. Had to call security on someone trying to sneak into the hospital. Can you imagine? Bold as brass, just walking through the lobby like she owned the place. One of the younger nurses, Kelly, looked up from her sandwich. What happened? Some woman, Jennifer said, waving her hand dismissively. Dressed in jeans and sneakers, carrying a bag, heading straight for the offices. When I stopped her, she tried to tell me she worked here. As if I wouldn't know everyone who works in this hospital. Did she say what department? Another nurse asked. Oh, she claimed to be a doctor, Jennifer laughed. Dr. Richardson, she said. Can you believe that? I told her straight up, I've never seen you before and I know all the doctors here. She kept arguing with me, getting aggressive, so I had to call security. Kelly frowned slightly. She said her name was Richardson? Yeah, just making up names, thinking I'd fall for it, Jennifer continued. I swear people have no respect for hospital security anymore. They think they can just walk in anywhere. But not on my watch. She took a sip of her coffee, clearly pleased with herself. The break room went quiet for a moment. One of the older nurses, Patricia, who'd been there almost as long as Jennifer, shifted uncomfortably in her chair. Jennifer, Dr. Richardson is the CEO's name. Jennifer laughed again, but this time it sounded a bit forced. The CEO wasn't there. She's been gone for weeks. I think I'd recognize our own CEO. Have you ever actually met her? Patricia asked quietly. Well, no, not formally, but I've seen her around, Jennifer said, though her voice had lost some of its confidence. And she certainly doesn't walk around in jeans and sneakers like some teenager. Patricia didn't say anything else. She just looked down at her lunch and the uncomfortable silence stretched out. Kelly excused herself and left the break room quickly. The other nurse suddenly remembered she had to check on a patient. Within minutes, Jennifer was sitting alone with her coffee, feeling less triumphant than she had when she'd walked in. But by Sunday, Jennifer had convinced herself she'd done the right thing. She told the story to 2 more co-workers during her shift, each time painting herself as the vigilant nurse who protected the hospital from intruders. Most people just nodded and changed the subject. But Jennifer took that as agreement. Meanwhile, across town, Maya spent Saturday evening at home with her laptop open, reviewing incident reports she'd downloaded months ago. She wasn't looking for anything specific initially, just catching up on what she'd missed. But after the morning's events, she started seeing patterns she'd overlooked before. There were complaints from patients. Not many, but enough to notice. A black family said they'd been treated rudely by staff and questioned about whether they could afford treatment. A Hispanic man reported being asked repeatedly if he was in the right hospital. An Asian woman wrote that nurses seemed surprised she spoke perfect English. Each incident had been noted, investigated minimally, and filed away. Maya sat back in her chair, rubbing her temples. She'd been so focused on the big picture over the past 3 years. Expansion plans, budget negotiations, new equipment, hiring practices, all important things. But somewhere in the midst of all those major decisions, the day-to-day experiences of regular people walking through those doors had gotten lost. Her phone rang Sunday evening. The caller ID showed Dr. James Chen, the chief of surgery. James had been one of her strongest allies since she'd taken over as CEO, a brilliant surgeon who cared deeply about patient care and staff morale. Maya, welcome back, James said when she answered. I heard you had an interesting encounter yesterday. Maya closed her eyes. News travels fast. One of the security guards told his supervisor, who mentioned it to me because he felt terrible about it, James explained. He said they escorted you out of the building. Is that true? Maya told him the whole story, not leaving out any details. When she finished, there was a long silence on the other end. I'm furious, James finally said. Give me the nurse's name. I'll have her suspended by tomorrow morning. Wait, Maya said. I appreciate that, James, I really do. But I've been thinking about this all weekend. This isn't just about one nurse. This is about a culture. How many other people has she treated this way? How many patients have walked into our hospital and been made to feel like they don't belong? And more importantly, why did nobody stop her? What do you mean? There were other people there, Maya explained. Staff members who saw what was happening. The receptionist, a maintenance worker. Other nurses must have heard her telling the story afterward. But nobody said anything. Nobody questioned her. That's the real problem. James was quiet for a moment. So what do you want to do? Monday morning we have the monthly all-staff meeting, Maya said slowly, an idea forming. I want to see how this plays out naturally. I want to understand how deep this problem goes before we start fixing it. Are you sure? That nurse is going to be there. I'm counting on it, Maya replied. After she hung up with James, Maya couldn't settle. She kept thinking about the look on Jennifer's face. That absolute certainty that she didn't belong. The way she'd refused to even look at identification. The comment about knowing her place. She thought about her 20-year career in medicine. Medical school, where professors sometimes confused her with the one other black woman in her class. Residency, where patients asked when the real doctor would arrive. Conference rooms where people assumed she was there to take notes, not lead the meeting. She'd worked twice as hard, been twice as prepared, earned twice as many credentials, and still, there were moments like Saturday morning, across the city. A young nurse named Kevin was having trouble sleeping. He'd only been working at St. Catherine's for 2 months, still learning the ropes, still trying to fit in. He'd been restocking supplies near the lobby when he'd witnessed the incident with Jennifer and the woman in casual clothes. Something about it had bothered him all weekend. The woman had been so calm, so professional, even as she was being accused and escorted out. She hadn't yelled or caused a scene. She'd simply stated facts and then left with dignity. That wasn't how someone trying to sneak into a hospital would act. Sunday night, unable to shake the feeling, Kevin opened his laptop. He logged into the hospital's internal directory, something he'd been given access to during orientation but rarely used. He typed Richardson into the search bar. The result made his stomach drop. Dr. Maya Richardson, Chief Executive Officer and Medical Director. The photograph showed a professional woman in a white coat, but Kevin recognized the face immediately. It was her, the woman from Saturday morning, the woman Jennifer had thrown out of the building. Kevin stared at the screen, his mind racing. Should he tell someone? Who would he tell? He was the newest person on staff. Jennifer had worked there for 12 years. Who would believe him over her? And what if he was wrong? What if it was just someone who looked similar? But he knew he wasn't wrong. The face in the photo matched perfectly. The calm demeanor, the way she'd handled herself, the laptop bag. She'd been coming in to work on her day off, and she'd been treated like a criminal. Kevin thought about Jennifer telling the story in the break room, laughing about it, proud of what she'd done. He thought about the other nurses who'd heard the story and said nothing. He was new, but even he knew Dr. Richardson's name. Hadn't anyone else made the connection? He closed his laptop and lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. Monday morning, there was an all-staff meeting. Those were mandatory. Jennifer would be there. Dr. Richardson would be there. Kevin had no idea what was going to happen, but he knew it wouldn't be good. In her home office, Maya made a list. Not of punishments or consequences, but of changes. Real systemic changes that would make St. Catherine's better. Bias training, yes, but more than that. Accountability measures. Reporting systems that actually worked. Leadership that listened. A culture where people felt safe speaking up when they saw something wrong. She looked at the clock. It was nearly midnight. In 9 hours, she'd walk into that staff meeting. In 9 hours, everyone would know what had happened. The thought made her nervous, not because she worried about confronting Jennifer, but because she was about to expose something ugly about an institution she loved. But it needed to be done. For every person who'd been made to feel small, for every patient who'd been treated with suspicion instead of care, for every staff member who'd seen something wrong and stayed silent, because speaking up felt too risky. Maya saved her notes and closed her laptop. Monday morning couldn't come soon enough. The auditorium at St. Catherine's Medical Center filled up quickly Monday morning. The monthly all-staff meeting was mandatory, which meant everyone from senior surgeons to cafeteria workers had to attend. People filed in with their coffee cups, chatting about their weekends, finding seats among the rows of chairs facing the stage. Jennifer arrived early and grabbed a seat in the middle section, flanked by 2 nurses from her floor. She was in a good mood, already planning what she'd have for lunch after the meeting. These gatherings were usually boring. Some administrator would talk about budget numbers and policy updates while everyone tried not to fall asleep. Kevin walked in and immediately spotted Jennifer. His stomach twisted. He'd barely slept the night before, going back and forth about whether he should say something to someone. But what would he say? And to whom? Now sitting 3 rows behind her, he could only wait and see what would happen. The lights dimmed slightly as Dr. Robert Foster, the interim administrator who'd been filling in during Maya's absence, stepped up to the microphone. He was a nice enough man, close to retirement, who preferred research to administrative work. He cleared his throat and smiled at the assembled staff. "Good morning, everyone. Thank you all for being here," he began. "I know these meetings aren't the most exciting part of your week, but we have some important updates to share. First and foremost, I'm pleased to announce that Dr. Richardson has returned from her extended leave." A ripple of polite applause moved through the audience. Jennifer clapped along with everyone else, barely paying attention. Before we dive into departmental reports, Dr. Richardson wanted to address everyone directly. Robert continued. "But first, I think it's important we all remember why she's been such an asset to this institution." The large screen behind him flickered to life. Jennifer glanced up, mildly curious. A professional photo of Maya appeared on the screen. Jennifer's heart skipped. She leaned forward, squinting at the image. No, that couldn't be right. The slideshow continued. Maya's credentials scrolled across the screen. Harvard Medical School, top of her class. Residency at Johns Hopkins. Published research in 3 major medical journals. Former appointee to the Surgeon General's Advisory Committee. Awards for healthcare innovation and community outreach. 8 years as chief of surgery at a major hospital in Boston, before coming to St. Catherine's 3 years ago as CEO and medical director. Jennifer felt the blood drain from her face. The woman on the screen in her professional photos wearing a white coat and a confident smile was the same woman she'd had thrown out of the building on Saturday, the same woman she'd mocked, the same woman she'd told didn't belong. "Oh no," she whispered. Her hands started to shake. The nurse beside her leaned over. "Jennifer, are you okay? You look pale." Jennifer couldn't respond. She was frantically looking around, trying to figure out if she could somehow slip out without being noticed. But she was trapped in the middle of a row, with people on both sides and the auditorium packed with staff. Kevin, sitting behind her, saw her reaction and knew she'd just realized what he'd figured out the night before. He felt a strange mix of emotions. Part of him felt sorry for her. Most of him felt she'd brought this on herself. The slideshow ended and Robert stepped back to the microphone. "It's my pleasure to welcome back Dr. Maya Richardson." The audience burst into genuine applause. Maya walked onto the stage from the side entrance, dressed in a professional navy blue suit. Her hair styled perfectly, every inch the accomplished executive she was. The applause grew louder. She smiled and waved, thanking people as she made her way to the podium. Jennifer felt like she might throw up. Maya let the applause die down naturally, taking her time, making eye contact with various staff members in the audience. When the room was finally quiet, she spoke. "Thank you, Robert, and thank you all for that warm welcome. It's good to be back." Her voice was clear and strong, filling the auditorium easily. "I had a wonderful time at the medical conference in Geneva. Learned a lot. Made valuable connections. Spent time with my mother. But I have to tell you, I was eager to return. This hospital, this team, this mission, it means everything to me." People smiled and nodded. A few doctors in the front row whispered their agreement to each other. "I arrived back in town on Friday evening," Maya continued, "and Saturday morning I couldn't help myself. I know, I should have rested. I should have waited until today. But I wanted to stop by, check on a few things, get a head start on the week." Some people chuckled knowingly. Workaholics understood the feeling. "So I came in Saturday morning, casual clothes, jeans and a sweater, my hair in a ponytail, just planning to grab some files and head back home." Maya paused, letting the details sink in. "I walked through the main entrance at about 9:15. Jennifer stopped breathing. She knew what was coming. "I was immediately stopped by a staff member," Maya said, her tone still conversational but with an edge now. "This staff member told me visiting hours hadn't started. I explained I worked here. I offered to show identification. I gave my name." The auditorium had gone completely silent. You could have heard a pin drop. "I was told this staff member had worked here for 12 years and knew everyone. I was told I was lying. I was told I was being aggressive, which I was not. Security was called. I was escorted out of the building I've led for 3 years. I was told, and I quote, 'Maybe next time you'll think twice before trying to sneak into places where you don't belong.'" Gasps rippled through the audience. People started looking around, trying to figure out who had done this. Jennifer felt dozens of eyes beginning to turn in her direction. The nurses sitting beside her had shifted slightly away. Maya's expression remained calm, but her words carried weight. "Now, I want to be very clear about something. I'm not telling you this story for sympathy. I'm not looking for apologies, though I'll certainly accept accountability. I'm telling you this because it reveals something critical about our culture here." She stepped out from behind the podium, making herself more visible to the entire room. "I had the privilege of walking away from that situation and coming back today to address it. I have power, position, and resources. But think about all the people who don't. Think about the patients who walk through our doors and are treated with suspicion instead of care. Think about the visiting family members who are made to feel unwelcome. Think about the job applicants, the vendors, the community members who interact with this hospital every single day." Maya let that sink in before continuing. "If someone could look at me, the CEO of this hospital, and decide within seconds that I didn't belong based solely on my appearance, what does that say about how we treat others? What assumptions are we making? What biases are we carrying? And most importantly, what are we doing about it?" The room remained silent, but it was a different kind of silence now. People were thinking, processing. Some looked uncomfortable. Others looked angry, but not at Maya, at the situation she was describing. "This isn't about one person's actions," Maya said firmly. This is about all of us. It's about creating a culture where everyone feels valued and respected, where we ask questions before making assumptions, where we challenge bias when we see it, where we hold ourselves and each other accountable. Kevin found himself nodding along with others around him. This was bigger than Jennifer's mistake. This was about all of them. Effective immediately, we're implementing several changes, Maya announced. Mandatory bias training for all staff. New protocols for security and visitor management. A confidential reporting system for incidents of discrimination. And most importantly, leadership that listens and acts when people come forward with concerns. She paused, her eyes sweeping across the room. I love this hospital. I believe in the work we do here. But we can't heal others if we're perpetuating harm within our own walls. We have to do better. We will do better. The applause started slowly, then built into something powerful. People stood up, giving her a standing ovation. Jennifer remained seated, frozen, tears streaming down her face. As the applause continued, Maya caught sight of the 2 security guards from Saturday sitting in the back row. They looked mortified. She made eye contact with them and gave a small nod. They would talk later, but there was no anger in her expression. Just acknowledgement. When everyone finally sat back down, Maya wrapped up the meeting with some administrative updates, keeping things professional and moving forward. But everyone knew the real message had already been delivered. As people filed out of the auditorium afterward, the conversation started immediately. Some were supportive of Maya. Others were shocked at what had happened. Some were defensive, feeling attacked. But everyone was talking, which was exactly what Maya wanted. Jennifer remained in her seat until the room almost emptied. Her supervisor approached, expression grim. Jennifer, we need to talk. HR office now. Jennifer nodded numbly and stood up on shaking legs. As she walked down the aisle toward the exit, she could feel people watching her. Everyone knew. Everyone had figured out she was the one. Kevin watched her go, feeling a complicated mix of emotions. The truth was out now. The question was, what would happen next? The HR office felt smaller than Jennifer remembered. She sat in a chair across from Linda Chen, the Director of Human Resources, with her supervisor Christine Davis beside her, and a union representative named Tom on her other side. The room was quiet except for the hum of the air conditioning and the occasional sound of papers being shuffled. Linda opened a folder and looked at Jennifer with a neutral expression that somehow felt worse than anger would have been. Jennifer, I'm sure you understand why you're here. Jennifer nodded, her throat tight. She'd stopped crying, but her eyes were still red and swollen. Let's walk through what happened on Saturday morning, Linda said, pulling out a printed document. We have security footage from the lobby, statements from both security guards, and Dr. Richardson's detailed account. I want to hear your version of events, Jennifer tried to explain. She talked about seeing someone in casual clothes walking purposefully through the lobby, about how she'd been protecting the hospital, about security protocols and visitor hours. But even as the words came out of her mouth, they sounded hollow. She could hear how weak her excuses were. Did you ask to see identification? Linda asked. She said she could show me ID, but I thought it might be fake, Jennifer said quietly. Did you ask what department she worked in? No. Did you try to verify her claim by calling any supervisor or administrator? No. Did you radio any other staff member to confirm whether they recognized her? Jennifer shook her head. There was nothing she could say that would make this better. Christine, her supervisor, spoke up for the first time. Jennifer, this isn't the first time concerns have been raised about your behavior. 3 months ago, a Filipino doctor filed a complaint that you questioned whether he was really a physician. Last year, a black family reported that you were hostile when they visited their grandmother in ICU. Both times you claimed you were just doing your job. Jennifer's head snapped up. Those were misunderstandings. People are too sensitive nowadays. No, Linda said firmly. People are expecting to be treated with basic respect. That's not sensitivity. That's human decency. Tom, the union representative, cleared his throat. I have to advise Jennifer that the evidence here is substantial. The security footage clearly shows Dr. Richardson remaining calm, while Jennifer made accusations without attempting any verification. Given the previous complaints, this establishes a pattern of behavior. Linda pulled out another document. I've reviewed Dr. Richardson's recording of the incident. She documented everything in real time. Your exact words, Jennifer, were, maybe next time you'll think twice before trying to sneak into places where you don't belong. Do you remember saying that? Jennifer felt tears starting again. I don't know. Maybe I was frustrated. That statement combined with everything else shows discriminatory intent, Linda said. You made a snap judgment about who belongs in this hospital based on appearance. That violates our code of conduct, our anti-discrimination policies, and honestly, basic professional standards. The meeting lasted another 40 minutes. They went over every detail, every policy violation, every opportunity Jennifer had to handle the situation differently. By the end, the decision was clear. You're suspended without pay pending a full investigation, Linda announced. We'll contact you within a week with our final decision. But I need you to understand that termination is very likely. You'll need to surrender your badge and access cards before you leave today. Jennifer walked out of the building an hour later, feeling numb. 12 years of her life gone. But somewhere deep down underneath the shock and fear about her future, a small voice whispered that maybe she'd brought this on herself. While Jennifer was clearing out her locker, Maya was in her office meeting with the 2 security guards from Saturday. David, the taller one, and Miguel, the shorter one, both looked like they wanted to disappear into the floor. Dr. Richardson, we're so sorry, David said for the 3rd time. We should have checked your ID. We should have questioned what was happening. Maya leaned back in her chair. Tell me what you were thinking in that moment. Walk me through your decision-making process, Miguel spoke up. Honestly, we were scared. Jennifer's been there forever. She was so certain, so insistent. We're both pretty new, and we thought if we didn't back her up, we'd get in trouble for not supporting staff. And there's something else, David admitted reluctantly. She kept saying you were being aggressive, and we've been trained that when someone reports aggressive behavior, we need to act fast. But looking back, you weren't aggressive at all. You were actually really calm. So why did you believe her over me? Maya asked gently. David looked down at his hands. Because she was a nurse in scrubs and you were… I don't know how to say this without sounding terrible. Say it, Maya encouraged. You were a black woman in casual clothes, David finished quietly. And we made assumptions based on that. I'm not proud of it, but that's the truth, Maya nodded. I appreciate your honesty. That's actually what I need from both of you. Honesty and a willingness to learn. You're not fired. You're not even suspended. But you're going to be part of the solution. Both guards looked up in surprise. I'm creating a new training program for all security staff, Maya explained. You two are going to help develop it because you understand what went wrong. You're going to help other guards recognize their biases and make better decisions. Can you do that? Yes, they said in unison, relief and gratitude evident on their faces. Good. Because the goal isn't to punish everyone who makes a mistake. The goal is to create a place where these mistakes don't keep happening. After they left, Maya spent the rest of the day in meetings. She met with department heads. She met with the patient advocacy team. She met with a group of doctors and nurses who wanted to share their own experiences of bias in the hospital. Dr. James Chen stopped by her office around 5, bringing Chinese takeout. They ate in comfortable silence for a few minutes before James spoke. The hospital's buzzing. Social media, too. Someone leaked what happened at the meeting and it's spreading everywhere. Maya sighed. I was hoping we could handle this internally first. People are mostly supportive, James assured her. They're calling you courageous for addressing it head-on, though of course there are some who think you're making too big a deal out of it. Of course there are, Maya said. Change is uncomfortable. Some people would rather pretend bias doesn't exist than deal with it. Kevin, the young nurse, knocked on Maya's door just as James was leaving. He looked nervous but determined. Dr. Richardson, do you have a minute? Maya smiled warmly. Of course. Come in. Kevin sat down and took a deep breath. I saw what happened on Saturday. I was in the lobby, and I didn't say anything. I didn't speak up. I just watched it happen and then went about my day. I feel terrible about that. You're here now, Maya said. Tell me why you stayed silent. I'm new. I'm still learning. Jennifer's been here forever, and everyone seems to respect her. I thought maybe I was wrong about what I was seeing. And honestly, I was scared that if I spoke up, I'd become a target too. He paused. But Sunday night, I looked you up in the directory. I knew it was you. I knew what had happened. And I still didn't tell anyone. Kevin, right? Maya asked and he nodded. Kevin, you're not the problem. You're actually part of the solution. The fact that you're here feeling guilty about your silence means you understand why speaking up matters. Most people never get there. I want to do better, Kevin said firmly. I want to be someone who speaks up when I see something wrong. Then I have a proposal for you, Maya said. I'm putting together a task force, doctors, nurses, admin staff, security, everyone. We're going to rebuild our culture from the ground up. I need people who understand what it's like to feel pressured into silence. Would you join us? Kevin's face lit up. Really? Yes, absolutely yes. As the day wound down, Maya stood at her office window, looking out over the parking lot where she'd sat in her car on Saturday, processing the humiliation of being thrown out of her own hospital. So much had happened in just 3 days. Jennifer was suspended. The security guards were committed to change. Staff members were having difficult but necessary conversations. Kevin and others were stepping up to be part of the solution. But this was just the beginning. The real work was about to start. Changing policies was easy. Changing hearts and minds, that would take time, patience, and a willingness to keep pushing even when it got uncomfortable. Maya's phone buzzed with a text from her mother. Saw the news, baby. So proud of you. You're making a difference. She smiled and texted back a heart emoji. Then she gathered her things and headed home. Tomorrow they'd start building something better. Tonight she'd rest, knowing she'd turned one of the worst moments of her career into a catalyst for real change. The hospital was quiet as she walked through the lobby where everything had started. A few night shift workers nodded respectfully as she passed. The security desk had a new sign posted, "Everyone welcome. Everyone respected." It was a small start, but it was a start. 3 months had passed since that Monday morning meeting that changed everything at St. Catherine's Medical Center. Maya sat in her office reviewing the latest patient satisfaction surveys, and for the first time in years she felt genuinely hopeful about the numbers she was seeing. The survey results from minority patients had improved by 23%. More importantly, the comments section was filled with stories about feeling welcomed, respected, and heard. One woman wrote about how a nurse took extra time to understand her concerns. A man mentioned how security helped him find his way instead of questioning why he was there, small moments that meant everything. There was a knock on her door. Kevin poked his head in, holding a folder. "Dr. Richardson? Got a minute? The task force has some recommendations ready." Come in," Maya said, gesturing to the chair across from her desk. Kevin had transformed over the past 3 months. That nervous young nurse who'd stayed silent was now one of the most vocal advocates for change in the hospital. He'd helped develop peer-to-peer training sessions where staff could have honest conversations about bias in small, safe groups. "So we've been analyzing the incident reports from the new system," Kevin explained, opening his folder. "The confidential reporting system is working. People are actually using it. We've had 47 reports in 3 months, which sounds bad, but it's actually good." "How so?" Maya asked. "Because it means people feel safe enough to report things that they would have just ignored before, and we're catching problems early, before they escalate. Last week, someone reported that a doctor made an insensitive comment about a patient's accent. We addressed it immediately with education, not punishment. The doctor apologized, the patient felt heard, and everyone learned something." Maya smiled. "That's exactly what we hoped would happen." "What else?" "The bias training has been completed by 92% of staff. The remaining 8% are scheduled for next week. And here's the interesting part. We're getting requests from staff who want additional training. They want to go deeper into the material." "That's incredible," Maya said, genuinely moved. "Also," Kevin added, his voice getting excited, 3 other hospitals have reached out asking about our program. Word is spreading." After Kevin left, Maya had a meeting with David and Miguel, the 2 security guards. They'd become champions of the new security protocols, training every guard in the hospital on how to handle situations with respect and proper verification procedures. "We want to show you something," David said, pulling out his phone. He played a video from the previous week. It showed a security guard approaching a man in the lobby who looked confused. Instead of demanding information, the guard smiled and asked, "Hi there, can I help you find where you're going?" The man explained he was looking for his wife's room but got turned around. The guard walked him there personally, chatting kindly the whole way. "That's the difference," Miguel explained. "It's not just about what we do. It's about how we do it, assuming people need help instead of assuming their problems." Maya felt a warmth in her chest. This was what change looked like. Not one big dramatic moment, but hundreds of small moments where people chose kindness and respect. The hospital had held a series of town halls over the past 3 months. At the first one, only 20 people showed up, and most were too nervous to speak. By the third one, they'd had to move to a larger room to accommodate everyone who wanted to share their experiences. Maya would never forget one moment from the second town hall. A veteran nurse named Patricia, who'd worked at St. Catherine's for 18 years, stood up and spoke through tears. "I've seen things I should have reported. I've heard comments I should have challenged. I stayed silent because it felt easier. But staying silent makes you part of the problem. I'm sorry it took this situation to wake me up, but I'm awake now." The room had erupted in applause. Other people came forward with their own admissions. Doctors who'd witnessed bias. Administrative staff who'd ignored red flags. Slowly, painfully, honestly, the hospital was confronting its past to build a better future. As for Jennifer, the investigation had concluded with her termination. It wasn't just the incident with Maya. The investigation had uncovered a pattern spanning years. Multiple complaints that had been minimized or explained away. Patients who'd switched hospitals because of their treatment. Staff members who'd felt uncomfortable but didn't know how to report it. Maya had received a letter from Jennifer 2 weeks after the termination. It was a short, formal apology that felt more about clearing Jennifer's conscience than genuine remorse. Maya had read it once and filed it away. She bore Jennifer no ill will, but she also wasn't interested in absolving her. Some lessons had to be learned the hard way. The bigger victory was what came after. The hospital had revised its entire approach to complaints and investigations. No more filing things away and hoping they'd go away. Every complaint was taken seriously, investigated thoroughly, and addressed promptly. It created more work, sure, but it also created accountability. Dr. James Chen stopped by Maya's office late that afternoon with news. "The medical board is asking you to present at the national conference in December. They want to hear about the Dignity in Healthcare initiative." Maya looked up from her computer. "National conference? That's a big platform." "Your story went viral, Maya. That medical journal article you wrote has been downloaded over 50,000 times. Hospitals across the country are calling it a wake-up call. They want to learn from what you've built here." Maya thought about that Saturday morning 3 months ago. The humiliation, the anger, the hurt. She'd turned that painful moment into something meaningful, but it had cost her. There were sleepless nights, difficult conversations, pushback from people who thought she was overreacting, emails from strangers calling her divisive, but there were also letters from patients thanking her, staff members telling her they finally felt safe at work, parents saying they no longer worried about bringing their children to this hospital. Those letters outnumbered the negative ones 10 to 1. "I'll do it," Maya told James. "But only if Kevin and David can come with me. This isn't my story alone. It's all of ours." That evening, Maya took her usual walk through the hospital before heading home. It was something she'd started doing after everything happened. A chance to see the hospital through fresh eyes and connect with people doing the real work. In the emergency room, she watched a nurse patiently explain discharge instructions to an elderly immigrant couple, taking time to make sure they understood. In the waiting area, she saw a security guard helping a young mother with 2 kids carry her bags. In the cafeteria, she overheard 2 doctors discussing the bias training and how it had changed their approach to patient care. Small moments, everywhere. She stopped by the main lobby, the place where it all started. The hospital had installed a new display there, a beautiful piece of art with the words, "Everyone welcome." Everyone valued, everyone respected in multiple languages. Beneath it was a QR code linking to the hospital's commitment to equity and inclusion. A young black woman in scrubs walked past, heading toward the elevators with confidence. Maya wondered if she was a new doctor, a nurse, a technician. It didn't matter. What mattered was that she walked through those doors without anyone questioning whether she belonged. Maya's phone buzzed. A text from her mother. "Saw your interview on the local news. My daughter, changing the world one hospital at a time. Love you." She smiled and texted back, "One hospital, one heart, one moment at a time. Love you too, Mom." As Maya walked to her car, she thought about the journey ahead. Other hospitals wanted to learn from St. Catherine's. That was exciting, but also sobering. Because this work was never finished. There would always be more to do, more to learn, more ways to grow. But tonight, driving home under a sky painted with sunset colors, Maya allowed herself to feel proud. Proud of Kevin for finding his voice. Proud of David and Miguel for choosing growth over defensiveness. Proud of Patricia and others who admitted their past silence. Proud of every staff member who showed up to do the work, even when it was uncomfortable. She thought about that humiliating Saturday morning and realized something important. Yes, she'd been thrown out of her own hospital. Yes, she'd experienced painful discrimination. But she'd also been given an opportunity that many people never get: the power to turn that pain into purpose. Not everyone gets to fight back. Not everyone gets to demand change and have the authority to make it happen. She'd used her privilege and position not just to defend herself, but to create a better environment for everyone who walked through those doors. As she pulled into her driveway, Maya made a promise to herself. She'd keep pushing, keep challenging, keep building, because the story wasn't about one incident or one person. It was about creating a culture where everyone, regardless of who they were or what they looked like, was treated with the dignity and respect they deserved. That was worth fighting for. That was worth the sleepless nights and difficult conversations. That was worth everything. Maya grabbed her bag and walked into her home, ready to rest tonight and start again tomorrow. The work continued, and she was ready for it.